Okay, so I want to tell a little story about this thing that happened one time when I was in the army. One more thing that adds to the legend of Levy. Because like I always said, if you're going to do dumb and crazy shit, at least do shit that no one's ever done before and be original, which I definitely was. You always had to give me an A for originality, no matter how stupid it was. Including this one time. We had this guy who was in my battery. His name was Moreno. Andrew Moreno. He was this guy from Colorado. This Mexican guy. And I didn't hate the guy or anything. He was an okay guy. But I was never crazy about him. He never liked me. Sometimes I'm convinced that he hated me. And Moreno was kind of a strange case. He basically did nothing for about his first 2 years in the army. He came in same time as I did. Reported to Fort Drum, same day, same week. Right in my peer group. And he wasn't a bad soldier. He wasn't a shitbag at all. But he was nothing special. You know, if you had to make a list of, guys that are going to stay in the army and be E7s, first sergeants in 10 or 15 years, no. Moreno would not be on anyone's list. Then one day, after 2 years, right before we deploy, the guy flips a switch, turns it on out of nowhere, and becomes this super high-speed soldier. And basically, by the time we get back from deployment, he's Sergeant Moreno. Ends up becoming, I think he's staff's E7 by now. But, yeah. He became high speed as fuck. And we're like, where did this shit come from? But whatever. So, like I said, the guy really didn't like me. I think he looked for excuses to be a dick to me and yell at me. And I didn't really like having to call him sergeant. But, whatever. So this one morning at PT, he decides to start being an asshole and scream at me for no reason at all. Now, usually when an NCO yells at you, whether you deserved it or not, you're a private or a specialist, you can't do shit. This is just part of life in the military. You just have to take their shit and drive on, as they say. But this, in particular, just pissed me off. I felt it was totally uncalled for. He, yelled at me and kind of embarrassed me in front of everybody. And then I get this light bulb in my head. And I think back to this time, someone told me that you can literally write a counseling statement for anyone. You could be a private and write the sergeant major of the army a counseling statement. I don't think anybody would have the balls to do that. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. If I'm going to do this, it's going to be now. Okay, something you do once in a military career. If ever, fuck it. Let's just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? So I go back to my room. I go on the Army website, download the counseling form, fill out the entire thing, besides his social security number, which of course I didn't know it. But everything else was completely filled out like a normal counseling statement. And I wrote Sergeant Moreno on such and such date and time. We were at PT. I felt that you really disrespected me. I really didn't appreciate that. I hope it doesn't happen again. Blah, blah, blah. And I decide to take this to the battery and start showing it off to everybody. Yo, I counseled Moreno. I wrote Sergeant Moreno a counseling statement. And was like, Levy, you did what? You fucking counseled Sergeant Moreno? What? You can do that? Apparently you can. Anyone can counsel anyone. Levy, you're fucking insane. Now, of course, I showed this to enough people. Then within about 5 or 10 minutes, it gets back to Moreno. And of course they hear, Levy, get the fuck over here right now. Yes, Sergeant? Levy, you wrote me a fucking counseling statement? Roger, Sergeant. And he was under this impression that I just did it just to disrespect him, that it wasn't actually serious. You know, that I didn't even fill it out. I wrote like, fuck you, Sergeant, with like a middle finger on the front. And like, that was it. No, he didn't get it. He's like, give me that shit. Let me see it now. And he starts reading it, right? And the more he reads, the more his facial expression changes. And he's like, holy shit. Oh, wow. I thought this was a joke. Holy, wow. It's fucking serious. He actually filled this whole thing out. And by the time he finishes reading it, he goes, Levy, I really thought, again, that you just wrote this as a joke to disrespect me and insult me. Wow, you are fucking serious. You know what? If you really felt this disrespected by this, if this pissed you off this bad, you had to go to this extent to prove a point, all right, Levy, you fucking win. You ever do this to me again, I'm going to smoke you till you die. But this time, you win. Have a nice day. And he walks away. And I don't know if anyone had ever written one of their NCOs a counseling statement before. Like in the history of the Army, it wouldn't surprise me if I was the first. Like I said, be original, and that I was. So, that was my little story about Moreno. Sergeant Moreno pissed me off and disrespected me, and I decided to take the bold step of writing him a counseling statement. What a time. What a fucking time.